Welcome to the first vodcast of the chemistry school year. This vodcast is on the techniques walk-around that you'll be completing over the next few class periods. It covers general lab and safety procedures, so you'll be needing the techniques walk-around answer sheet from your handouts, and during this presentation I will remind you to sketch a few notes on the margins to help you complete this walk-around safely and efficiently. This is what the handout will look like. As you go through the walk-around, read the cards, study the diagrams, and sometimes you have to look around the lab to answer questions. You can start the walk-around at any point with the exception that I will point out in a moment. Some of the questions will be graded, and there will definitely be a quiz that will follow the techniques in safety and equipment identification over the next several days. But use your common sense when answering the questions, keep them very brief, and you will have a key posted in the classroom for you to check answers with. Here is an example of what the cards will look like. You have to look at either the picture and interpret from the diagram, or read the text, or both. So question number 4 says, what does the use of the stirring rod prevent? Well, when I check here, the use of the stirring rod shows that you can avoid splashing by pouring down a glass rod. So how would I answer question 4? In just 2 words, avoid splashing. That's it, nothing more. Some general guidelines are please always act responsibly in the chemistry lab. Don't sit on lab counters ever because you might not see the spilled chemical that's dried up there from the previous class period. Unless you enjoy watching your teachers' veins bulge out on their necks, do not play with the strikers that we use to light Bunsen burners. They make a scritchy, scratchy sound that's like fingernails on a chalkboard. Please don't do that. The only function is to light a Bunsen burner. When indicated, wear goggles, pull your hair back, or roll up sleeves. And this will be typically when you're using a Bunsen burner or when you're handling chemicals. And please don't remove or write on any of the walk-around cards. Okay. Now, most of the questions are self-explanatory, so I'm going to stop at a few key points along the way to give you the helpers that you need to make some notes about in the margin. So when you get to station number 12, you'll be testing acid and base. So on the screen it says what you need to jot down: wear goggles and dispose of the test strips. Now you dispose of the little litmus paper or pH paper test strips in a small trash can that's a shape of a coffee can on the counter. So the cards will have all of this information on it, but for sure right now by step 12, write down wear goggles. Okay, moving on, you will have another set of cards that have you practice learning how to light both types of Bunsen burners that you can find in the lab. Again, hair back, sleeves rolled up, goggles on. So note to self when you get to, I think it's question number 17A, wear goggles. All right. Now the next one that we'll focus on is actually found at the bottom of the sheet, and you'll see a big empty box on 26A. Do not write in that box. At this point, if you have completed cards 13 through 26 first, you and 3 other people as a group will create something called a glass elbow, and you will get a score up to 5 points for the quality of the glass elbow that you produced. So a little note to self here as well. You will be needing to, of course, wear goggles and have your hair pulled back. So if you just want to put goggles, that will remind you. But I will do a demonstration of how to create a glass elbow. And then when only in your group of 4, all 4 of you have finished cards 13 through 26, you'll come up to the desk and get a long piece of glass from me. You'll take it to the designated cutting area and cut 15 centimeters long. Now you don't need to write this down because this is on the instruction card, but we only cut at the designated area. There's always going to be some glass shards and scraps, so make sure sweep those up with a dustpan and broom. Don't touch them with your hand, and they go into the glass disposal boxes. So if 4 people end up with each of you having one 15 centimeter length of glass, now you split up and go to any lab desk, and each person sets up their own Bunsen burner. Don't share Bunsen burners. So I would make a note, don't share burners on the margin of my paper. That's because if you touch one melty piece of glass to another melty piece of glass, They merge together and mate in this very abstract looking modern art thingy that will get you no points on this part of the lab. So don't share Bunsen burners, individual burners only. Your goal, and this is on the card as well, so you don't need to write it, is to get a right angle bend in the middle of your tubing and get smooth fire polished ends that are not scratchy at all, but are not sealed shut either. There is a card out on the desk that shows examples of good and bad bends and fire polishing, so you can actually get a hands-on feel for what that looks like at Station 26. If you start making your glass elbow in one period but can't finish it, let it cool, label it with a piece of masking tape with your full name and period, and turn that into the correct period box. I will babysit it overnight and give it back to you the next day. But remember, hot glass looks the same as cool glass, so if you forget that important concept, see the teacher for a piece of healing ice. Now when it's completely done, you will let the elbow cool so you don't set your paper on fire, and you will tape it to the bottom right corner of your handout with clear Scotch tape. Do not cover the ends of it with tape. That one I want you to make a note of. Don't cover ends. That's because I have to feel the ends to see how good of a job you did on fire polishing. After about 2.5 periods, most everybody should be done, and you'll be turning in that sheet with the glass elbow attached to it into the correct period box. Now here are some examples which you should just take a look at on how to guide you for creating your glass elbow. The cards will explain the technique, but you will need to make the bend in the center. So this one is bent at 90 degrees, which is nice, but they didn't make the bend in the center. Here's one where it's at a center bend, but they didn't get 90-degree angle on it. This image shows approximately what you're looking for. And again, besides the bend in the center and the 90 degrees, these ends should be fire polished smooth. And do not try to touch them to see if they're smooth. Let them cool. And you kind of have to do this little touch and go thing to see if it's safe enough for you to touch. There is one more important box at the upper right that's for question 27A. And 27A is an individual question that you will do, sort of a spot quiz on identifying equipment. So you have a handout in your packet that shows all the pieces of lab equipment that you will need to know. You will need to study that handout each night over the next few nights. Some of them are easy. If you miss a test tube, I don't know what to say. It's easy. Most people get that one right. But you're only going to get one piece of equipment held up and one shot at it. So each night, study your handout. At Station 27, actually pick up the labeled pieces of equipment so you can get a hands-on feel and spot quiz each other. Hold it up and say, hey, what's this? And then she'll test you, hey, what's that? So when you are all done, having studied and learned all of the pieces of equipment that is on this sheet, now it becomes a go up to the teacher's desk process, and it's very straightforward. You come to my desk, hand me your answer sheet. I will pick one piece of equipment, I'll hold it up, you'll tell me what it is. If you correctly identify it, a happy stamp goes into the box on question 27A. If you miss it, that's where the sad stamp goes, and as you can see, it's kind of an all or nothing thing. And you'll need to be specific. You can't just say flask, you'd have to say Erlenmeyer flask or Florence flask. So you need to be specific. Finally, the last section that needs a reminder on is a section on question 36 where you will be practicing weighing some objects. So you will end up weighing some sand as well. If you spill any, please clean it up with the dustpan and broom. The balances are very fragile and very expensive. Last time I bought them, they were $800 each. So please do not push down hard on the balance pan, and when you are done, turn off the power. The remainder of the questions, I'm reasonably certain, are pretty self-explanatory, so you'll finish those. There's a few math questions for basic algebra review. And after about 2.5 periods, when you're done, you'll check your answers with the key. You'll tape the glass elbow on, not covering the ends with Scotch tape. Make sure you did the question 27A on equipment identification, and be ready for a future quiz that will cover equipment, techniques, and safety. Have fun, not too much fun. Until next time.